Summer movie season started really weird a couple of weeks ago. In fact, it was incredibly slow. And unfortunately, this past weekend, we didn't get much better. We barely had a box office this past weekend, and we're going to talk about it right now. I'm Adam. This is Does It Hold Up? Tuesday Box Office Edition, where I just break down what were the top 10 movies over the past weekend, and we look at a few more charts chronicling the entire year. And at the end of the show, as always, we're going to flash back to look at an old movie to see how profitable or not profitable it was. As always, we start with what were the top 10 movies at the box office this past weekend, so let's go ahead and take a look at those. In first place is the Garfield movie, actually moving up from second place last week in its debut weekend. In its second weekend, it moves into first place, but it had a very disappointing, abysmal number here of just over $14 million. Think about that. It's the end of May, beginning of June. We should be in the full swing of summer movies, and our number one movie at the box office only made $14 million. It didn't help that there weren't a lot of big releases this weekend. In fact, there weren't any, but that's still incredibly disappointing to see. Garfield dropped 42% in its second weekend. It's made $51.5 million here domestically so far. In second place, switching here with Garfield, is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga in its second week with a big drop, 59% for only $10.7 million this weekend. It has now brought in 49.7 here at the domestic box office. These were the two movies that opened up 1 and 2 last week. They stay 1 and 2, although they switched positions, and this is how they open up. The two of them together are now at less this week than Furiosa opened up to by itself last week. And if we look at 3 weeks ago, If opened up higher than both of these movies combined. If. I just don't know what's going on here with the box office. It's not bouncing back, and you can say it's because we don't have a lot of good movies, but as we go through this top 5 movies in any other calendar year probably makes some money. I don't know what's going on with this year. Speaking of If, in third place is Ryan Reynolds' If in its third week with another $10.5 million, a 35% drop, but it has crossed $80 million. If almost made as much in its third week as Furiosa did in its second week. Just think about that. In fourth place is Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, staying right there in its fourth week, with another just under $9 million, a 33% drop, 140.1 so far overall. And in fifth place in its fifth week is The Fall Guy with another $4.2 million, a 30% drop, $80.2 million here in 2024. Those are solid outside of Garfield, which admittedly I haven't seen yet and I have no desire to see. But if you look at that top 5 movies, 4 of those should have played really well. They hit different demographics, different types of movies, and none of them are really succeeding. You can say Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is succeeding with that $140 million so far, but is it really? I feel like this movie coming out 5 years ago, 6 years ago, would have done $140 million probably in 2 weeks, not 4. I don't know what's going on, but let's go ahead and move on to 6 through 10. In 6th place is The Strangers, Chapter 1, again staying in 6th place in its third week with $3.7 million, a 34% drop, $28.3 million domestically. The next movies, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all new to the list. And in 7th place is, sorry if I pronounce this wrong, Hakuyu, The Dumpster Battle. Never heard of this, but it did come in 7th place with $3.6 million, so might be worth checking out. In 8th place is Of In a Violent Nature with $2.1 million, a new horror movie. In 9th place is Ezra, a drama with $1.2 million. And in 10th place, rounding out this list, is Summer Camp with just over $1 million. Summer Camp, out of all the movies in this top 10, might be the one that I really want to watch next. I have a soft spot in my heart for movies where, as I like to call them, old people doing young people shit. I love these types of movies. I love being able to see these actresses and these actors who 15 years ago would have been past their prime and not getting movie roles, out there just making movies for them, for a different kind of audience. And the crazy thing is, I'm that audience. I love these types of movies. So I definitely want to see this one. Who doesn't? 4 movies fell out of the top 10 this past weekend. The first one was Babes. Second one was Sight after just 1 week each. Back to Black, the Amy Winehouse movie, after just 2 weeks. Huge disappointment that movie was. All the fans who went and saw it absolutely hated it. So I'm not going to be seeing this one. And Challengers after 5 weeks, which I did check out last week. It's a little too late to make a review, but you'll get my thoughts on it when I do the monthly wrap-up of every movie that I watched in the last month. It wasn't good, and I'm not surprised that it fell out of the top 10 after just 5 weeks. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the 2023-2024 comparison chart. This is where we look at weekend to weekend how well the box office is doing and how well it's holding up compared to last year. This past weekend was the 22nd weekend of the year. And I gotta say, it's not good news. It was horrific. If this was a boxing match, they would call it right here, with 2024 being unable to continue. Because what did we make this year at the box office across all movies in theaters? $65.3 million. Led the way by Garfield with that $14 million. Not great. That is a huge drop. That is almost $40 million dropped from last week. And I'm going to say this again, guys. We are at the end of May, now the beginning of June. This is when the big movies are supposed to be in theaters. People are supposed to be going. Kids are out of school. They can go. The weekends, families looking for something to do. A lot of places are incredibly hot in the summer. You want to go somewhere chilly. Go to the theater. Why are we not seeing it? And compared to last year, we got trounced. Last year on the 22nd weekend, 2023, was $205.2 million. Now, that was helped by the fact that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse opened up to a very impressive $120 million, leading the way. But that means every other movie last year, outside of the number one movie, still made more money than all the movies combined this year, including the number one movie. I'm always a big advocate for going to the theater, watching movies. And after the pandemic, and even before that, when people were saying, oh, the theatrical model's dead, Netflix killed it, streaming killed it, all this stuff happened. I've always been that person who sat there and I've said, no, it's going to bounce back. A lot of things are cyclical, and eventually people are going to want to go back to the theater. They're going to want to see the big screen with the big sound, have that communal experience. And 2024 is really testing my patience here on that being true. And I get it. We had 6 months last year worth of work stoppage due to strikes. And that pushed back a lot of release dates. But when the motto going around the entire industry is survive till 25, that means no one really has hope right now. And that's really disappointing. I'm hoping there's some big movies coming this year. Even movies that we don't think are going to be good. I hope they're going to be surprising and be successes. Kraven the Hunter keeps getting pushed back. I really don't think that movie's going to be any good. But everything in me hopes that it's just a massive success and is way better than we could have ever imagined. Just to see the box office thrive even a little bit. Because if we're this far down right now, just wait until we hit the middle of July when Barbenheimer hit theaters and just ruled the box office for weeks. What do we have that's going to compete with that? Deadpool's good, but it's not going to be that good. Alright, enough of the bummer stuff. Let's go ahead and take a look at the top 10 movies of 2024 so far. This is all the money they've made in just the 2024 calendar year, nothing else. In first place is still Dune Part 2. I don't think anything right now is going to even come close to that with $282 million. Godzilla Kong: A New Empire at $196.2 million is in second place. Kung Fu Panda 4, $193 million in third place. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes with that $140 takes fourth place. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire still in fifth with just about $113 million. Bob Marley One Love is still your sixth highest grossing movie this year with just $96.8 million. Didn't even get to that $100 million mark, and it's still the sixth highest grossing movie. Seventh is Wonka, a movie that didn't even come out this year. It came out in December 2023, and yet it still sits in seventh place. If that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what does. But it took in $85.2 million in just 2024 for seventh place. The Fall Guy stays in eighth with $80.2 million. If jumps into this chart here in ninth place with $80.1 million. And Migration falls one spot to 10th with $73.2 million. One movie drops out, and that's Mean Girls. No surprise. Normally I have one more chart in this show, and it's the genre distribution chart, where we take a look at how much money total has been made at the box office and how that money breaks down percentage-wise by genre of movie. But I noticed week to week, it really wasn't moving that much. Yeah, a little 1% here, 0.5% there, but not enough to make a huge difference. So I've decided to remove that chart from the show and only bring it back when there's a significant change that might be worth talking about. Maybe I'll add a new chart into its place in the future. Haven't really decided what's going to go there. But for now, we're just going to be one chart less. All right, that's it for this past weekend's box office. Let's go ahead and move on to the flashback part of the show, where I take a look at a movie from the past to see how profitable it was in theaters, or maybe just how much money it lost while it was in theaters. And with the fact that Godzilla Minus One, a very successful movie, just hit streaming recently, you can now watch it on Netflix, we're going to go ahead and flash back to 1998, Godzilla. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at that Roland Emmerich movie. Domestically, week one, Godzilla brought in $77 million. The studio kept that 60%, so about $46 million. Domestic week two, the studio kept 55% for $13.6 million. Week 3 plus here domestically, the studio only got to keep 50%, but that still added up to about $17 million. Internationally, the movie did exceptionally well, way better than it did here domestically. It took in just under $240 million. Studio kept 40%, so that's $95.8 million. I couldn't find if it got a Chinese release, so we're just going to leave those numbers blank. The budget for the movie, though, was extremely high. $125 million. Think about that. It's 1998, and they spent $125 million on a movie. Insane. And then to go along with that, they did a massive marketing campaign. I don't know if you were alive in 1998 to watch this marketing campaign happen, but Godzilla was in everything. Taco Bell commercials. There were banners hanging off of skyscrapers. There were banners hanging at sports arenas. They were everywhere. On buses, they did subway commercials. Everywhere. Reasonably, a lot of people assume the marketing budget for this movie was about $80 million, but I did find a CNN report from 1998 that said the marketing budget, with how big they went, could have cost them roughly $200 million. I wasn't confident enough in that one report to give a marketing budget of $200 million, so I kind of split the difference just a little bit, and I went with a marketing budget of $100 million. That might be too high, that might be too low, but I feel like it's a good number. The gross for the movie was $376 million worldwide. It netted $173 million for an estimated loss of $52 million while in theatrical release. I know a lot of people who love this movie. I also know a lot of people who despise this movie. But I thought I remembered this movie being a really big success and everybody talking about it when it came out. And maybe they were, but it looks like just not enough people were going to see it. Now, the studio has said that with marketing tie-ins, with toys, with the cartoon that spun off from the movie, they made about $400 million in ancillary markets. So I'm sure the studio was very happy with the profit they eventually made from Godzilla 1998, but just in the theatrical release, they took a significant loss. Alright, that's it for me this week with the box office roundup and a quick flashback to an old movie. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. What hope do you have for this summer? Do you think movies can bounce back, or do you think 2024 is the last true year of the theatrical experience? I'll be back next week with another roundup of the box office, and I will also be back later this week with a review for the new Glenn Powell movie, Hitman, coming to Netflix Friday. Until then, be good to yourself, be kind to others, and as always, keep watching movies.